If you don't know anything about the Beatles, you need to know a single thing. In the 60s, when their fame rose to extremes never seen before, they invented sex. A few years later on, the Rolling Stones discovered that you could have it with women too. As a kid, I became a huge fan of the Beatles. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassingly obsessed. But we were all weird when we were children. My weirdness just broke some social standards. My favorite had always been John Lennon, and my love for him is still present, even 15 years after becoming a fan. You see, I used to like the Beatles so much, I would buy anything from them my little teenage self could get her hands on. One day, my mom said to me I needed help, so I told her no, thank you mom, I already have that one. Yeah, I also like gaming, so today I'm asking a question. Can you beat Fallout 4 as John Lennon? But how does one beat Fallout 4 as John Lennon? So I dug deep into my brain for my knowledge of Lennon and came to the following conclusions. Strength. As a young man, John was quite a rowdy and was in fights a lot, so I suppose his strength should be quite high. Perception. Without his glasses, John was as blind as a bat, so unless I find glasses that look like his perception stays at 1. Endurance. On one side, it must have taken a lot of endurance to be part of the Beatles. Always hunted down by the press, doing Beatles things and partying an unholy amount, while banging enough women to fill a telephone book. On the other side, he got shot, so his health points should be an average level? I'll decide on this when I get to it in the tutorial part. Charisma. As mentioned before, he had enough side pieces to fill a telephone book. That takes quite some charisma, so it will be quite high. Intelligence. I personally believe John was a very intelligent man. While not making the best choices all the time, he was a very creative person, changing the trajectory of music for decades and centuries up to come. He was also witty and sarcastic, and wrote poetry, and later in life advocated for peace. So he had to be a quite intelligent man. So his stats, they will be at least over the average. Agility. I have no idea how good his reflexes were, so I might just go with the average here. Luck. Once again, on one side he was part of the Beatles, and rose to fame and will be famous for the next centuries, something akin to Mozart or Beethoven. On the other side he got shot, so his stats here will also be average. In addition to all of this, I will make him addicted to every chem out there over the course of this run, and try to keep a steady supply for him to keep his addiction up. Also, since he was shot, I won't use guns for him, instead focus on melee weapons. Spoiler alert, I used a knife for 99% of this run. Okay, let's do this. First of all, I spent an unholy amount in the character creation. And I'm not even going to attempt to make Cynthia or Yoko along with this. Just, nah. But ain't she sweet? Also here we have a son named Sean. And John also had a son named Sean. So that's neat. The bombs dropped, we got frozen, and Johnny Boy woke up 200 years later after Yoko got taken out. Do you know why John Lennon was shot? 'Cause Yoko bent it down. Well, good morning, good morning. Out of the world and off to Sanctuary it was. But before that, I changed John's stats to the ones you see up right here. I won't touch his stats for the rest of the game, only adding perks when he levels up. So he has to act naturally. As soon as I was in Sanctuary, I added camps and alcohol to John's inventory and drank 9 out of the 10 beers, making him addicted to alcohol. John had various addictions over the course of his life, including alcohol and heroin. He used more drugs over the course of his life. For example, benzodrine, stimulants such as preludin, LSD and cannabis, going as far as smoking weed in the Buckingham Palace's bathroom. And fuck knows what else he took during the crazy course of his life. He didn't get addicted to all of them at once, so I will slowly introduce them over time, probably after every second main quest. To get all of these camps, it must have been a hard day's night. As I was heading towards Concord, I started to think, what faction should I choose? The Brotherhood is out of question as they are pro-war, something that John was not. I don't want to be a soldier. That leaves us with the Minutemen, the Institute and the Railroad. I personally think the Railroad is the best option here, as they liberate enslaved people and sins, and freedom was something Johnny fought for to give peace a chance. So I gracefully ignored the Minutemen and made my way to the Railroad HQ. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention that I had some mods installed from a different run. I'm not really going to use them, but just in case something strange makes a cut and you're confused. Also, the loading times in downtown Boston with these mods on ranged from 30 seconds to 3 minutes, so that was fun. If I were to go into downtown Boston, I tried to avoid these loading zones. And if I had to, it was just a quick hello goodbye, only to then get out of these zones. Okay, before I got to the railroad HQ, I made a pit stop in Diamond City and got Johnny addicted to Buffalo. What a sentence to write. Yeah, next addiction done, and the first mission for the railroad questline was to secure the switchboard, their previous hideout, and the prototype. Guys and girls, I got my ass humbled. There's one part where 4 sins attack you at once in a tiny part of the sewage system. I don't want to spoil the party, but I died roughly 10 times there. Live on stream. I got roasted to hell and back, and I deserved every little bit of it. To be fair, I recorded this 2 days after my nose surgery. Still high on some stuff, but it was hard and I feel fine. Also, this happened the moment I finished the quest, basically. You know what? No. Just no. Help! Holy shit! Like fuck. So yeah, I spent some time upgrading and updating John Lennon, and by the time I finished the shopping spree and decided to continue with the quest line, he had a better outfit and finally had some glasses on. So if you've got trouble, you know who to call. Johnny boy. I'll be honest, all I did was get him a power armor, which I used during a few quests, such as the nuclear option, but I tried to stay away from it from the regular stuff. I did the next mission for the railroad to escort a synth from A to B. The pathfinding was horrible, but we managed it somehow, nothing to write home about. Thanks to the power armor, the search for Nikki wasn't too bad. The Triggerman did more damage to the power armor than I previously anticipated, but okay, fine by me. After finding Nick, to make up for the power armor, I got John addicted to both Calmax and Daddy-O, in addition to already being addicted to alcohol and Buffalo. Funnily enough, for now, nothing of John's charisma is being affected, so I can swoon my way through some speech checks. Fine by me, fine by me. Okay, after eating Kellogg's old house, I should have known better that he is hiding out in Fort Hagen. I'm just going to ignore the sins along the way and show you the beauty that is the way how I killed Kellogg. Beautiful, isn't it? Thanks to going through this mission, it is now up to me to find a scientist from the institute that has left because fuck the soul survivor, our Johnny boy, that's why. Because life is easy for no one, especially not for John. Please note, at this point in real life I bought a new monitor and was having some issues with getting things ready at first, so if you see any weird software glitches, you can keep them. I'm just trying to be fixing a hole here. I also had issues with recording audio from my new monitor, but I think I'll figure it out in the near future. I'm also not sure what caused it, but inside of Virgil's lab, I still took insane amounts of radiation damage, something that is usually not the case. Must be some mod, otherwise it was odd at first. Even if it's accurate to real life. Hell, I'm glad I'm not Virgil, otherwise I would be taking radiation damage 8 days a week. Huh, well, to kill off a courser. Since John Lennon always had some kind of buddy by his side, maybe Paul McCartney or Yoko Ono, I decided to bring Deacon along to the part. I gave him a knife and set him free. In Green Tech Genetics, it was not too bad. The gunners weren't too bad. Some gave me a sliver of a headache, but it wasn't too bad. The sins in Fort Hagen are always the worst. To kill the courser very efficiently, I let it all come together and let Johnny take all the drugs his system could handle, and what happened is what you can see here. After digging around in yet another brain, I got a chip decoded by the Railroad Bros, and for once I did not kill him on the spot, even though it was very, very tempting. But I actually have to sign with them to stay in character. Ugh. But the instant karma will hit them the next challenge run, I promise you. Oh well, we built a teleportation system in Sanctuary and off to the Institute it was. Since I want to do the Railroad ending, it is critical that I stay on the Institute's good side, which means I had to go along with their missions for a while. So I got to meet Sean, now older than John, yet a beautiful boy. Before I finished meeting all the division leaders, I already met up with the mole in the Institute, who needs us to grab an old password and username from a pre-war surface building. Inside of the Cambridge Polymer Labs, you're supposed to do a side quest by being locked in a chamber by a robot gone crazy and solve a puzzle. I think you would even get some pre-war money if you finish the quest the intended way, but you can't buy me love. Instead, I killed the robot, walked straight into the lab, got the data and was back out, and by this point I had a broken quest in my Pip-Boy, but I didn't really care much about that. Returning back to the Railroad HQ with that info, Desdemona decided that we shouldn't do it that way, instead freeing all synths at once, as a security breach like the one we had planned would lead to other synths becoming basically impossible. Instead, with some other synth rebels, a construction accident was staged so the rebels could buy themselves time. With all that spying on one another, it feels like I'm back in the USSR. Also, for the last stand, I just put every gun I had into the storage and it was good to go. I also have done runs where I didn't even give them any guns. Pfft, suckers. After the construction accident, it was now time to stay in the Institute's good graces, so I proceeded with the main story for this faction. Long story short, I bought back a rogue synth who became the leader of a raider group, survived the Battle of Bunker Hill and brought the 4 synths back where they wanted to escape from. Sean was actively dying and informed us, named John his successor, how cry instead, and in mass fusion we got the beryllium agitator to fire up the reactor even more. I wanted some truth, and they gave me some truth. And soon enough, it was time to strike back. After a directional meeting, one of the rebel synths informed me that the Brotherhood was on its way to the Railroad HQ, something that could be absolutely fatal for every member. So I threw on my best power armor, which I had stolen off of a Brotherhood corpse, and made my way to the HQ. I guess you could say they needed help. One thing that always surprises me is the bleeding effect, which I put on the knife, because it just makes sense. And it also applies to robots and people in power armor, even though they are more like ravioli than anything else. I'm in love with this specific effect, it's just great. Well, the Brotherhood tried to wipe out the railroad. Tried. Instead, John Lennon stabbed them all so many times their guts and blood were covering the floor. What a view! Ain't that a shame for the Brotherhood? And instead of tucking our tails in, we attacked back. Together with Tinker, Tom and Deacon, we wiped out the complete police station in Boston, leaving no survivors anywhere. Here is also the only time in the entire run where I had to use a gun, as a vertibird was coming in to destroy us, so I used one of the Gatling guns from the corpses to shoot them down. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to progress. And we are so close to finishing this run, I didn't want any setbacks, but I've got a feeling that you sweethearts won't mind that too much. By the way, at this point I was addicted to every chem out there, and I was spamming Excel for the sole reason that is, I barely ever use it in any playthrough cause it is so addictive, but here it doesn't matter. His liver and probably every other organ was closer to being sawdust than anything else. But yeah, I left the power armor behind at the police station, put on the clothes of a dead body which was still warm and a little bit wet, but alright, disguise is disguise, who am I to judge? On the third one, I got through every speech check as I was playing mind games with them. Planted the bombs and fucked right out of there. The third one exploded, I felt empty inside as I watched my favorite faction blow up, but now we were able to revenge all the fallen soldiers by blowing up the Institute. And there is not a lot to say. I slaughtered the people by the teleporter, got my people in, we slaughtered and killed, and I even killed Sean. Which honestly, John was an abusive dad to Julian, so we are just going to let this slide. But I did take Synth Sean with me, just how John replaced Julian with Sean. So here we are, all we can do is take it one day at a time. I pressed the big fat button and proved yes, you can beat Fallout 4 as John Lennon. This challenge scratched an itch in my brain that was desperately needed. I greatly enjoyed the Freddie Mercury run from a few months back, but John Lennon has been with me, so to say, since I was 10 years old. I'm now 25 and I still look to him in awe, wanting to be an artist like him, shaping and changing how art is consumed. Of course, I could do without a murder at age 40 and a drug addiction, but life is life. All in all, I think a complete camped up run was due anyways. Maybe I'll do a different run someday soon where I'm playing such a camped up character. They're constantly high by setting the time limit for the camps up to, don't know, 999,000 seconds? Don't know yet, but it sounds fun. This brought much fun, even though it was with my least favorite faction. I hope I did John well by making certain choices in this game and choosing freedom for the sins. Also, during this run, did you count how many references I put in for Beatles and his solo songs? I'm giving you the number now. It was 27 different song titles thrown into the script of this challenge video. Let me know in the comments how you did. All in all, this challenge took me 8 hours and 30 minutes to beat. Okay, that's it for today. My name is Rexy and this was my video on beating Fallout 4 as John Lennon. Thank you very much for watching and I hope I'll see you next time. Hello, goodbye!